Okay, that's enough of the mix downs. Greetings, everybody, and I hope everybody can hear me. I know we're a minute early. Well, we were actually 15 minutes early there because the live stream was supposed to start at quarter past, which it will do, but I wanted to get in before the stream started this time round so that we could start dead on quarter past 10. I know it's quite a late stream for those of you tuning in from the UK. So, and I'm not sure what the time is in the States. Probably different from coast to coast, obviously, but I'd imagine it's a bit earlier over there. But yeah, it's late over here. So I didn't want to start too late. And we've got quite a lot to get through. So welcome to everybody. So I want to make sure anyone who does tune into this, maybe I'll take the effort of actually going and chopping off that first 15 minutes so people can come and dive straight into the stream. If it gives me the opportunity. I think they've removed some features recently that you can't edit your videos as much as you could before, but don't quote me on that. I'll double check. But yes, welcome everyone. It's really good to be here on a live stream with you guys. Feels like it hasn't been that long. It's been about a week or so, maybe a week and a half actually. And those of you who, thank you, Patrina, 5:15 somewhere in America, I'm guessing. Yeah, those of you who you may or may not have noticed, I've got 3 live streams scheduled for this week, so we are going to go quite heavy. So we got this one today, and then tomorrow I'm doing a live stream AMA with my 1827 dictionary. So people keep asking me for definitions to look up certain words, so I just thought, you know what, let's just do that in a live stream. It's a bit of fun, a bit light, won't be anything heavy. Something you can all tune into if you're interested in that kind of stuff, and then disappear when we're done. And then on the Friday, I've got a live stream that I'm doing with Nubia Nada, who is a fellow YouTuber, and she's basically a Nubian who I met during, I guess, since the launch of my YouTube channel. We've become very good friends. And it's something that we discussed, and she said she wanted to react to my 1920. Well, I gave her the invitation and she accepted, but she gladly accepted. She wanted to do a live reaction to my 1925 video, which, if you haven't seen that video, it's the one that looks at the old footage of Egypt, so you can see a lot more kind of Nubian and native dark-skinned Egyptian activity taking place in that country just literally 100 years ago. Demographically, looks like a very different nation to the one that it does now. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm really, really, really looking forward to all of those, to be quite frank. And I'm looking forward to this one today. So that's just to give you a bit of an overview, a bit of a synopsis of what's going to be going on during the course of the week. And also, obviously, in between all of that, I'm obviously trying to do content at the moment. And have been finding it a little bit difficult because I've just got, I think I'll normally say this, I've got so much content that I want to put out. Sometimes I do get a little bit of analysis paralysis. It's really difficult to release content sometimes because there's always more you can do. There's always a little bit more research. There's always a bit more verification you can add. And I think as I'm doing this kind of work and doing this job longer and longer, I put higher expectations on myself in terms of the veracity of my resources and references, and corroborating my evidence. I become harsher as a critic of my of the work that I'm putting out there. So everything always takes a bit longer. And I guess that's a good thing, because that's where we want to be. We want to be in a place where, I guess, as a kind of research community, that it's people will find it hard to, they already do, but they're going to be finding it increasingly hard to debate against us. The more, I guess, the more focused and the more voracious we become with our the level of research that we do. But it does come with a time deficit. So I spend so much of my time now reading. It's unbelievable. Which is always a good thing. I'm not going to complain about that, but it just means the entire process of creation just takes a bit longer. So, thank you and bear with me. because getting through all of that stuff does take a bit of time. I wouldn't have it any other way, so I'm not here complaining. I absolutely love what I do. But yeah, just bear with me if you have noticed that you haven't seen any kind of like long videos or even shorts have been kind of like falling by the wayside. I am still there. Massive thank you. Wow, really lovely donation there. Thank you very much, Pepwin7. He says, love the content, brother. The hidden truth coming to light. Thank you. And you know what? Your comment is actually very, very timely, because if you've been on the channel for a long time, the original people will know that I've wanted to kind of touch the subject of Europe and, black nobility, which are subjects that really scare some people. And I do get really well-meaning people contact me or leave me comments and say, brother, I love your channel, you're so credible, but please, don't talk about, black people being royalty in Europe and this, that, and they are saying it from a genuine place of concern, because I guess they're fearful that I'm touching what they see as kind of a pseudo topic, and it's not pseudo at all. It's actually, there's a lot of corroborating evidence that has come into surface. And I guess the point I'm making is that at the moment, I was saying this to the people on my Discord, there is kind of something in the air. It's like a lot of researchers, we're kind of operating on a network now. So a lot of the topics that I thought were really taboo just a year ago are now really coming to light. So I don't know if those of you who are subscribed to a channel called Without History, he's just released a really good video about black nobility in Europe, and it's very good, really credible sources. So I encourage you to watch that if you haven't seen that already. And just a few days ago, one of the members of this channel, Kapruki, has a fantastic YouTube channel as well. He's done a couple of videos about the Moors and black presence in Europe and black nobility. So I'm absolutely loving the fact that this subject is kind of getting blown out of the water. I've only done a short recently on that side, but I did a short on Morris dancing and the Moorish origins of Morris dancing, which I'd encourage you to watch. There's also a longer version as well. So the subject's getting touched, which is really fantastic to see, because, yeah, like I said, about a year ago, it was one that everyone was kind of really scared to touch. But I think there's been a lot of researchers who've done a lot of good work, and now that's coming to the surface, the picture's becoming a lot clearer. Put it that way. So, black history does not start and end in Kemet. As much as I love covering ancient Egypt, there are so many more subjects that I'm going to be covering as a part of this channel, and I feel like, yeah, that's where we are now. So anyway, I kind of feel like I gave you this whole spiel the last time I did a live stream, so I'm going to dive straight in. So what are we doing in today's live stream? Well, from the thumbnail, which is blown up on the screen at the moment, I spent some time last weekend in Berlin. I'm very fortunate. I'm fortunate enough to live in London, and so pretty much every European city or major European city is a very short flight for me. So it's probably quicker for me to get to Berlin than some of you guys could get to your local shopping centre. To be totally honest with you, it's an hour's flight from London to Berlin. So I went to Berlin for a couple of days, and I wanted to go to the Neues Museum because I'm actually on a very specific journey at the moment. One of the big pieces of research that I'm doing, and you're going to see this come to light over the next few weeks as well, is I'm doing a bit of a in-depth study on the bust of Nefertiti. And I'm not just going to prove that the existing one, the Berlin bust, is a fake, because it is a fake, by the way. Big spoiler alert to those of you who don't know. It's a fake, and it's a very bad fake. In fact, it's not even hard to prove that it's a fake, but we're going to touch a little bit on that later. But also the fact that I believe there is a genuine bust of Nefertiti out there, a completed one that a lot of people aren't aware exists. And I'm not going to spoil that too much, because I believe that bust is actually in the UK, and I've got a whole study around it. So I'm really excited. But the long story short is, a part of that study meant I needed to go to the Berlin Museum, because I wanted to capture my own photos of the bust of Nefertiti, because when I'm doing my kind of photo documents and I like to catch the pieces from certain angles. It makes it much easier when I'm doing things like reconstructions or comparisons if I've taken the photos myself, because often the ones that you kind of gather from the net just don't quite have the angle or quite have the depth of resolution that I need. So that was pretty much the entire reason that I went. And in that regard, it was a little bit of I wouldn't say a wasted journey, but I got there and basically you're not allowed to take photos. So I did a community post about it the other day. They don't allow you to take photos of the Nefertiti bust. They allow you to take photos of everything in the Neues Museum of Berlin. Okay, everything. You could take photos of everything. It's like they're very open. I got closer to artworks and artifacts than I've ever gotten to many. So it was amazing in that regard. But not the Nefertiti bust. That's in its own room, and it's like they've got it lit in a certain way. And the bottom line is, they do that because we're gonna touch on it later, but they do it because it's a fake. That's the reason it's got its own room. They want to control. It's the same reason why when you visit Egypt, they don't let you take photos when you're in certain tombs, because they know that the artwork in certain tombs is very, unequivocally African. It's absolutely African. There's no doubt about it. So they want to control the amount of images that actually escape. So whenever they're hiding something, they will put kind of photographic restrictions on it. So that was a bit disappointing that I couldn't take the photos that I wanted to take, but I managed to do a lot of photo documenting whilst I was there. So we're going to kind of look at some of those images together today. It's an amazing museum because of, I guess, one of the things I found really exciting about the Neues Museum of Berlin was the fact that I was familiar with so many of the pieces. So many of these pieces I have looked at over the net, over my screen, and fallen in love with. And then when I actually managed to see them face to face, I was like, wow, this is it. A lot of them were a lot smaller than what I expected, but they were there. I was looking at the genuine pieces. So I don't discount for 1 minute how absolutely privileged I was to be able to make that journey. It really was fantastic. And yeah, so I want to share that with you guys, and we'll jump in together. I want to give a couple of shout outs. That Ninja, I want to say, maybe I said that wrong. That Thanja, it might be that Ninja or Thanja. Thank you very much for your very generous donation. I really, really appreciate it very much. You haven't left a comment, but I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And Quadro, my ever supportive brother, who has given me so much since I started this channel. Says, great work as usual, brother. Do you think the genuine Nefertiti bust is in the Ashmolean Museum, Oxford, UK? I'm not sure if that's what it's called. If you're talking about the the name of it slipped my mind now. I'm trying to remember his name. Dennis something. It's in a castle. Is it the Ashmolean? You know what? Let me look that up for you. I'll come back to you quite well on that one. I can't remember. But it is in, I don't think it's in Oxford actually. It's in South. I've got it. Yeah, so I've got it in South, but it's not too far. I've got it to the southwest of London, which isn't Oxford. Oxford is like far west. So, but it's about the same distance, about an hour's drive from my house, ironically. But I will check out the one in Ashmolean Museum. I haven't seen that one before. I will definitely check that one out. But yeah, I'll let you know. You're gonna see. I know I'll probably be leaking little spoilers to that investigation as it takes place. But anyway, thank you everyone for being here, joining me. We've got 138 live, so I think we'll dive in now. That's enough of the introing stuff. So I went to the Neues Museum of Berlin. By the way, there's loads of museums in Berlin. I didn't have a chance to visit them all, but I'm glad I chose the Neues Museum because that really does have a lot going for it. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly dive in. Boom, 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 boom. So really, in terms of our approach today, by the way, I haven't structured a lecture or anything, so I want to get expectations straight away. All right. I want to manage expectations. I haven't structured a lecture. I haven't got some, real slick presentation here. I'm literally just going to take you through the photos that I have, talk you through the ones that are interesting, show you the photos I've managed to capture some. And there is a lot of kind of interesting areas, and some of them I might just skip over. But just bear with me because I didn't think there was any point in me kind of like pre-prepping any of this, but hopefully this will give you a good idea of what to expect if you're planning to visit this museum. And also, some of you will want to see it after seeing some of these images, and some of you might not be interested, but there you go. So let's dive in anyway, because this will be interesting. So let me just get my first image up. So I just pulled this up to see. Oh, that's good. I did take text shots as well. Okay, so I did kind of like normal shots and I did text shots, and I'm just going to actually, because we're looking at images today, I'm just going to hide that comment. All right, so everyone can just see the full screen. All right, so yeah, let's dive in, and I'm just going to kind of like go through the images, and I guess we'll stop on the ones that are interesting. So actually, this was the one of the first plaques that you encounter, and it actually talks about. This was actually really interesting to me, because in my mind, in your mind, you think of a museum as being this kind of like really old institution, but that was incorrect, or at least that was an assumption that I made that was incorrect. So let's see, it says here, plans for a public museum in Berlin go back as far as the late 18th century. In 1797, the archaeologist Alois Hirt first put the case for pooling the Royal Art Collections and the Kunstkammer holdings to form one museum of comprehensive scope. Exhibiting paintings and antiquities to the public under one roof was a new idea. So essentially what you're talking about here is the birth of a museum. And what that essentially was is all of these rich people who essentially had their own private collections decided to all get together one day and say, okay, let's put our private collections together in one place and show them off together. So all of these kind of like stolen artifacts that we all are putting in our house, why don't we put them on display? And that essentially was the birth of a museum. 1800, that was your first museum. This idea is a relatively novel idea. And it's funny because I just mentioned earlier about this Nefertiti bust that I'm going to see. It was from a private collection, and all that's happened is the guy who owned the private collection got a bit broke and decided he was going to open up his castle to the public, and in essence he's created his own museum. So you don't need a lot to start a museum, but it's always interesting to kind of hear the origins of ideas, and this is the origin of museums right here, which I found quite interesting. So that's why I kind of took that picture there. This picture wasn't particularly interesting, this artifact, but it was quite interesting to see the 3D version of this, I want to say deity, this god that I'm familiar with. So this is an Etruscan god. I think is this Selenos? Let me just quickly have a look. The roofs of Etruscan temples were decorated along their eaves with antefixes, blah, blah, blah. I want to know his name. Where is it? Yeah, Silenskov, yeah. So I think this is Etruscan antefix with the head of Selene, yeah, and antitheum nimbus. So this is Selenos, which is a god that I am relatively familiar with. So I took the image. I don't personally, just to be very clear, I don't think this is the face of an African or anything in particular. But this sometimes does get associated being African because he kind of has this turned up nose, and I think it's good for us to maybe also get past the fact that Africans have to have a certain look. A turned up nose, for instance, doesn't necessarily mean they look particularly African, because I don't think this looks particularly African. But this is quite an interesting image. I took it from side view as well. You can see that's kind of like more of a snout than anything. And it was just interesting to see this deity kind of like shown in this size, because I've only ever seen this deity on 2D vases and stuff, so it was good to see kind of what a 3D interpretation of him looks like. Now, the Etruscan civilization was very much an African, or at least I would say a phenotypically, historically phenotypically black civilization. At least that seems to be the the agreement between academia, even modern academics now are beginning to kind of like go down the route of kind of admitting that Etruria was a African or at least a black civilization. I am trying to get out of the habit of using the term African because outside of the continent of Africa, I don't find it particularly useful. Because I find we say African because we don't want to say black, but then saying African is also not very useful when you're talking about the people who have been there longer than anybody else. So if you're talking about such as Etruria, the native black Etrurians have been there longer than anyone. So calling them African is kind of like incorrect. So yeah, so it's weird trying to work around all those things there. Big thank you to Joe Joya for that donation. Appreciate you very, very much. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Was there anything interesting to say about this disc? Yeah, let's have a look. So this is Attic Red Figure Drinking Cup, Etruria again. So this is Etruscan again. So this is just a drinking cup with Dionysus and Attica, I think. Okay. Nothing particularly interesting about that, just a normal artifact. So I'm going to skip ahead. Won't waste too much time now. This is the first Egyptian artifact I came across, or set of artifacts. Now these are shabtis or shabtis, and these are quite interesting. They're always, I find the shabtis tend to be really, really detailed. But what I instantly noticed about these ones that I came across is that you definitely have a kind of mix of time periods here. And this is one of the things that I found that the Berlin Museum was a little bit guilty of. That, yeah, they were more guilty of this definitely than I've ever seen in most other museums. In that they quite haplessly throw together a bunch of pieces that are kind of maybe like themed, but from totally different. So they don't separate their stuff well in terms of like dynasties and timescales, and sometimes they don't even date them. And that can be very confusing sometimes. And sometimes I do feel there's an aspect of deliberacy to it, which did annoy me a little bit. Because I feel like they're trying to kind of like deliberately confuse people. But so here's a mix of these shabtis, okay? And it says 1270 to 550. So that would be late New Kingdom. So that'd be late New Kingdom to kind of late period. Figurines in the form of mummies stood in for their deceased owners in the afterlife if the latter were called upon by Osiris, ruler of the netherworld, to work in the fields. Their Egyptian name Shabti, or answerers, is a reference to this. Some come practically equipped with hoes and a grain sack. So this is a kind of an image of mixed shadow. Like I said, I recognized instantly that these aren't all from the same dynasty. Like this one over here, I could tell pretty almost instantaneously this would have been some kind of a late period. So it's just not really that useful. I would like to see these kind of individually labeled, but there you go. And I did try to have this habit of capturing interesting pieces from the side. So obviously I had an interest in some of these pieces, and I do like to capture side views. And one of the reasons I like to capture side views is because that kind of like, orthographic projection that you see in a lot of ancient Egyptian artwork is not always captured from the front. And when it's not captured from the front, that's when, you kind of start to get the denials about the Africanity of some of their appearance. But actually, if you capture it from all angles, you realize there are some traits there that are just distinctively very African. Like the profile view of this particular one, for instance, for me is particularly African. The amount of projection we have from kind of the suborbital region all the way down around here, that it just looks African to me. The way the lips kind of protrude from the front of the mouth, that's those are full kind of protruding lips. So I don't know, that's just one of the things I like to capture. You've got to see that theme moving forward anyway. So this image was interesting to me because I knew instantly this was obviously kind of like, I thought this was maybe late classical period, but it turns out this is actually very recent. So this was a bust done in 1772 to 1800 of architect Frederick Gilly. So I just captured that just to kind of like obviously show well, not really to show anything. I just thought it was quite an interesting image. But once again, clearly, obviously happy to say European, no controversy there. I thought it was classical, but I did find it interesting that finish wise, it looked quite old, because normally the stuff that's newer does have a bit of a smoother finish. Ironically, this looks much older than the bust of Nefertiti, which, yeah, go figure that one. So, yeah, that was quite interesting. Then there was this series of coins that I kind of captured an image of, because I'm doing lots of research into Europe at the moment. It's always useful to have cross comparisons, because you'll find when you're studying kind of European history, the same monarchs will come up over and over again. And if you just capture images, what will happen is you'll start to get a kind of a repository of certain monarchs that you can then cross-reference and see if the way their image is being displayed is consistent. So this is just a variety of coins here, none of which I think is worth zooming into. So I'm going to skip over that. And then that was it, really. I mean, that's when I was. This is now when I'm truly into the kind of the Kemetic area, the ancient Egyptian area. So this is the first kind of like major Egyptian or Kemetic artwork that I captured. I tried to capture the cartouche, which is over here, and some of the Medunessa, some of the glyphs. So I don't do any translation, by the way. Now I put my hand up, but I do have a dictionary, and it's something that I want to learn. So that's why I figured, let me capture them as much detail now. So when I do get to the stage where I like to start translating, I can do that myself. But this was a statue of Sekhmet. So you should all be familiar with that. There's the sun disk on top of Sekhmet's head is always quite interesting to me. And it was actually one of the things that I started to think to myself is, what if the sun is a disc? People, I know it sounds crazy, but, what if, what if this is a truer representation of the shape of the sun than the one that we've grown up believing it is? The sun is spherical. I don't know. I know that might sound crazy to some, but, I question everything. What can I say? So there were actually a pair of these. So I'm just going to skip to the next image as well. And you'll see there's actually a pair of these Sekhmet statues. So this is the second one, I think. So I always try to say this is the second one. So this one was on the left and the other one I showed you was on the right. So you got a pair of these giant Sekhmet statues. Let's see what dynasty they're from. They're from Dynasty 18, so the 18th dynasty. Oh, by the way, so one of the things that you'll notice about this museum is that there is a heavy emphasis on the Amarna period. Really heavy emphasis. So there's loads of really familiar Amarna works that you're going to see today that you're probably going to be like, wow. Because I mean, I wasn't expecting to see those. But yeah, massive. And I think that is linked to some of the curators at that time and archaeologists at the time were heavily linked to kind of Germany, like Ludwig, who found the Nefertiti bust, also found a whole bunch of other Akhenaten and Nefertiti pieces. So yeah, it's just this museum has got a lot of that period, a lot more 18th dynasty. I think, a lot more 18th dynasty than the British Museum. So that was kind of like unexpected, but a pleasant surprise. I would be campaigning for them to give it back to Egypt, but I guess I probably prefer for it to be in Germany than in Egypt at the moment. To be totally honest with you, at least the Germans are probably done with their tampering 100 years ago, whereas Egypt is still doing it, which is sad to see. So relief sequence offering bearers and transport of statues. Which was that? Okay, yeah, so we're going to get onto the reliefs now. Excellent. So now we're going to get onto what I think was the next really, I'm going to try and put into words. This is the first time I've ever gotten this close to bas reliefs. Okay. So I've always obviously appreciated the fact that, ancient Kemet had some excellent stone workers and excellent artists. But I think it's only when you're really up close to these bas reliefs that you really appreciate how much skill went into creating these. I honestly was in awe. I was like, how on earth did they create these? And I've got some other images, so I can zoom in on this one, but I've got some closely zoomed one. But these bas reliefs are simply staggering to look at. You know, in my head, I'm thinking, how have they done this? These are like drawings, but made out of stone, where every kind of like crevice and every point that's raised was very deliberate, to the point where you can see detailed hairstyles, detailed clothing. So you've got something that's 3D, yet it's flat at the same time. It really is something to behold. Honestly, I was in awe because I'd never been this close to bas reliefs before, and I saw dozens whilst I was there. So obviously I was snapping away. And also, what was really wonderful to see is that, and this is one of the themes that we're going to pick up as we're going through some of these images today, is that actually there's a lot of stuff that was amazing, and then there's stuff that looked really, really bad. And I mean like really bad, to the point where I questioned its authenticity. So I've got this kind of gut feeling, that's all I can kind of like sell, but I've got this kind of gut feeling with suspicions, kind of like there's a bit of evidence to kind of aid my suspicions that there's quite a handful of non-authentic pieces mixed in amongst the genuine. Like this one over here, absolutely genuine to me, absolutely genuine. The skill that has taken, the corrosion, that the damage, everything about it says this is 100% genuine. But then there's others that were just very, very questionable, and you're going to see some of those, the ones that I kind of like bring into question. So here I managed to get quite close on this one. You can see I was very, very close to some of these pieces. There was behind glass, but I just obviously see, one of the things that I obviously want to show you guys is just the consistency of the features as well. You'll never see ancient Kemetic people with features that just aren't really consistently African. I mean, look at the degree of prognathism in this guy's face. He looks a bit like Akhenaten, you know, where his suborbital region is very far forward, just the kind of very standard African phenotype that you should be used to by now. So it was nice getting close up. You know, we know this hairstyle is twists, so we got this person with this kind of like longer variation here, where this person, what really struck me is in this one you can literally see the twists. You can literally see the twists. So this is what they call the tiled style. But the detail that's on this bas relief, you can literally see the detail of the twist. You can literally see the strands of hair twisted around each other. It was just so awe-inspiring to see some of these pieces. And there's loads of them as well. Really, really just, not literally knock you off your chair kind of work. So this is kind of a zoomed out view, so you can see the entire relief. I mean, look at that for a piece of artwork. Absolutely amazing. And obviously each one telling a story. So I've got another close-up there. And then a couple more close-ups there as well. And then occasionally they have colour on them. This one, I'm not going to say just that this is colour, because as you can see, this dark brown pigment has spilled underneath and around. So this looks genuinely like something was splashed, or maybe there's something on the surface that caused stuff to stick to it. But I will show you comparisons where there definitely is kind of preserved colour on many of these bas reliefs. And actually, it's going to be really interesting, because this whole yellow women, red men thing is something that I feel has just been wildly overclaimed. And actually, most of the time, women are just depicted exactly the same tone as the men are. And actually, it's a minority of occasions where you have women depicted with the yellow undertone, not overtone, by the way. The yellow was never the top tone. No, the top layer was the undertone. But on the rare occasions, you see women depicted with the yellow undertone. But yeah. Have a look at these ones. Let me just zoom in there for you guys. Look at that detail. It's absolutely immense. You know, just think about the effort that it takes to get to essentially get a 3D carving. They've basically drawn onto stone. I can't put it into better words than that. They've done a drawing onto stone so that it would last forever. And look what they've left us with. Absolutely amazing. Really, really awe-inspiring work there. So you can see here. And then that's just the zoomed out view, so you can see them all out. And obviously the glass makes it difficult to see this, so you can see why I had to do those close-ups and press the camera against the glass. How's that for a close-up? And once again, just look at the features. Very African. I find, you know what I find quite interesting? If you do take the time to see these bas reliefs, that's when it becomes really hard. You know, there has been attempts, and even what's really quite striking is that you'll see many of these bas reliefs with their features deliberately chiseled out. We're going to come across some of those soon. But even the ones they've left still look African. So I'm thinking, what the ones that they chiseled out, what did they look like for them to feel that they needed to do that? And they allowed these ones to be preserved. It's really, really interesting. So, I mean, this is quite a piece. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. So once again, I'm really lucky to get a close-up there. Once again, you can see the detail on the hair of this one. Literally, you can see the twists, the individual twists of the hair. You know, no denying that it's just a very natural expression of African hair there. Such a common hairstyle, at least during that time period. Certainly, it was a very common hairstyle. It makes me want to pull up some of the Roman busts just for comparison. I feel like I should actually do that. Actually, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with this hairstyle, I'm going to pull up a Roman bust really quickly for comparison. Yes, this is what I'll do. Just got to do this really quickly. Bear with me. Yeah, this one. So I just want to pull up this image really quickly for comparison. It's a slightly longer version of it, but I just want to, will it zoom? Zoomed on you. Well, let me zoom without messing anything up. Try not to look at his buttocks. I'm trying to get the hair. There we go. So yeah, I just wanted to zoom in to kind of show you this hairstyle, just to show you how common it was. This is a Denderan, this guy here. So this is a citizen of Dendera. This is an Upper Egyptian. So I just wanted to kind of show this for comparison with the hair. It's the same hairstyle. And actually, if you just type in, you know, Roman bust of Upper Egyptian, for instance, you probably get loads that will just kind of like pop up instantly on Google search. But you can kind of see the same hairstyle as these twists. Sometimes thicker, sometimes thinner, but it's just a very consistent display of what they look like. Okay, so yeah, once again, like I said, this is on display in the British Museum, and this is a image of a man, a Denderan, from which is near Luxor, basically in Upper Egypt. So yeah, there you go. All right, let's move on. Don't know what that's an image of. So I just kind of photographed the plaque so that we could give some context. It says tomb relief representing a butchering scene, which is what we'll see next. So that's here. And once again, just look at the detail. Now, this is where I'm going to come on to just a kind of like, just to put out to the community there. We've all heard the excuses regarding iconoclasm. Okay, they make that excuse that the reason that pharaohs, kings, sometimes queens have their noses knocked off, yeah, is because the next rulers that came wanted to stop them breathing in the afterlife, yeah, preventing them from being able to breathe in the afterlife. So they knocked off their nose because the statues, the noses gave the statues like that's. Now, by the way, when they come up with this excuse is not corroborated with anything that's been written in antiquity. No historian has written that. They've just literally made it up and then sold it to everyone, and then it gets repeated. You know how Egyptology goes, they make up a lie and then they repeat it, and by the time they've repeated it enough, it becomes fact. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. Would anyone want to explain to me why this guy has his nose and face knocked off and this guy? Because these guys aren't pharaohs, all right? They're not even nobles, okay? They're just basically Egyptians, who have been hired to slaughter and cook. Yeah. Does anyone want to? They're not named, okay? These aren't rulers. Why? This isn't a pharaoh here. Why would they knock off his face and his face? Well, we know the answer why. The reason they've knocked off these people's faces, I would presume, is because they didn't like the features that they were being presented with. So what you'll find is that this kind of iconoclasm argument that is made constantly by the Egyptological community and kind of like lay people who just like to parrot them, it doesn't have any grounding, because the kind of the sporadic nature and the random nature of what they choose to vandalize and what has its nose missing or mouth missing or both is not restricted to kings and pharaohs. It never has been. Okay, it's restricted to pretty much, like you can see, anybody. It just depends which time a certain piece was found, and if if someone managed to get to it before it was kind of maybe officially put on some kind of a record or register. So there you go. That kind of disproves iconoclasm in kind of one fell swoop. These aren't pharaohs, so your argument holds no water. But once again, a wonderful piece. So I just want to zoom out there and just kind of show you once again that skill in this kind of 2D/3D artwork that they created. Really is quite amazing. I mean, look at this guy's face. How can anyone deny that this is a depiction of an African? I don't really know. They didn't. The Chemetics didn't have to draw thick lips from a profile view. To actually go through the trouble of actually outlining an ellipse like this. You don't have to go through that unless you're really trying to depict what someone's features look like, and that's just a very this undeniable African phenotype that you're being presented with here. Okay, undeniable African phenotype that you're being presented with here. So I'm just letting you see all of these. Some of them, sometimes I'm not going to have anything to say. I'll just let you see the reliefs, skip across. So this one here has got some of the colour preserved, as you can see. Okay, which is actually interesting, because that made me question things as well. Because I was like, why? It almost makes you question, were these deliberately rubbed off? Because it's weird to see some of these reliefs have literally no trace of colour. It's very, very peculiar to see for me, because I understand that it's time is going to cause these things to rub away. So if I look at that, I'm like, okay, fair enough. But then when they come and they're literally, I mean, this has been cleaned. It almost feels like you can see where they've kind of gone back and forth, maybe with some kind of a sponge or something. But why would they feel the need to clean a piece of antiquity? You know, it's quite disconcerting to me, you know, that they, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why this one person's bizarre, you know, has bizarrely retained his kind of like, you know, reddish brown tone. No doubt that would have been a deep reddish brown, which is, like we've already discussed, it a very standard color. If you want to head over to Aswan, you'll see it all day long. You know, were these ones too dark, you know, for them to preserve any of the pigment, or did they just decide they wanted to clean the whole thing so it looked like a uniform alabaster? I don't know. But is it their place to do that? That's the question. I don't know. Let's move on. This one was quite heavily damaged, if I remember correctly. But once again, you can still see the skill that's been used to create that. Let's have a look at the plaque. So it says tomb relief representing various phases of harvesting. So let's just have a look there again. Some donkeys in that pic. I'm just trying to see if I missed anything particularly interesting. I'm not sure what these two men are doing. Is that a mill? Is that a grinding mill? I'm not sure. Maybe someone in the comments will know what that is. What these two men are doing over here. I'm not actually 100% sure. Feel free to comment if you do know. So this is just a zoomed out view, so you can see the entire relief. Like I said, this one was quite heavily damaged. Okay, so what we come on to here. The ancient Egyptian religion is dominated by the belief in eternal afterlife. This was expressed very early on by inscriptions in the burial chambers of the royal pyramids. So is this, that's that image of the pyramids. Oh, okay, so this is some of the coffins. Now, sarcophaguses, or these kind of like coffins used throughout ancient Kemet, can be actually, one of the things I learned very, very, very early on in this process is that these are probably, the outer coffins are probably the worst depictions of people. I found they tend to be the most inconsistent. And one of the reasons for that is because they work kind of like Russian dolls work, where you'll have an outer coffin, and then outside the coffin you have another coffin within it, and then within that coffin you have another. Sometimes, you know, this will be 2 or 3 layers deep before you actually get to the person within. And as a result, this kind of like most outerly coffin or sarcophagus always never tends to have a good resemblance to the person inside. I've personally found. So even this one with, you know, relatively African features, this is not something that I would go to someone and say, oh, look, that's definitely, you know, definitely look like this. Look at his lips and look at his nose. I find actually they're really inconsistent. And that's genuinely been across the board, where, you know, there's someone where they've had portraits, so you kind of know what they look like in life, and then their sarcophagus looks nothing like them, at least this outer layer. So I don't know if that was a convention, or if they weren't that bothered, and if they rushed these a little bit, but I've learned not to read too much into these large outer coffins, and just kind of like, I do photo document them, but I don't read too much into them. So you can see this one, you know, that's probably as a good exhibit A here. You know, look at how wide and spread that is. It has been shaped in a certain way so that something else can fit inside it, essentially. So I don't think for one moment that the person within this looks like this. Just to be clear, I find that that's the case with these outer coffins. But nevertheless, I've got some more images of them. Here's another one. It was really nice to be able to just like get so many of these images. This one barely has any detail in it. It looks like it's been covered in some kind of a tar. And the nose, as you can see, has been well, it's wood, so it's kind of like been chiseled off. Could be deliberate. I mean, so it could be accidental, because if you look at the amount of external damage on this one, doesn't look like it was stored very well. So, I'd be willing to accept that one might be accidental. Okay. And here's the name of those 3 coffins. So we've got one's dated 400 to 200, so that would be kind of moving into the Ptolemaic era. So I'd be moving from the Persian to the Ptolemaic era. Then we've got one that's 25th to 26th dynasty, so that's moving from the Kushite to the, what was the 26th dynasty? Someone remind me, was it? Oh god, that's gonna really annoy me. I should just pick up that book; it will tell me actually. And then we got one for the 30th dynasty here, which is Ptolemaic era. So once again, back on the bas reliefs again. Now, some of the bas relief artists actually have slightly different styles. So what was really nice actually to see some of the a little bit more kind of preserved pigment here, and you can really see that kind of like that rich, dark, browny red, which is used a lot in ancient Kemet. But the style of this artist, you can see, is just slightly different to some of the previous ones we saw, but still nonetheless really quite striking to look at these kind of 2D artworks. Assyrians, you might be right. The Kushi, by the way, who wrote the Assyrians. I think it is I think the 26th was Assyrians. In fact, I'm going to confirm that now, because that's going to really annoy me. Don't worry, I've got a book right in front of me, and I think it's open near enough the right pages. So the 26th dynasty was... No, 26th dynasty was a Sayyid dynasty. So that's a domestic dynasty. It was a Sayyid dynasty. So that was an Egyptian dynasty, but it's considered a late one. It's not considered a part of any kind of like the kingdom periods, like a new kingdom. So that's like in the late period, but that was a domestic dynasty. Sayyids. And then the 27th was Persian. 28th was Sayyid again. And 29th was Memphite. And then, yeah. And then the 30th was another native Kemetic dynasty before the 31st, which was the Ptolemaic dynasty. So there you go. All right, let's move on. Once again, you can see these bas reliefs. Beautiful. Look at this work. Just stunning. Really a stunning work. And one of the... You may or may not notice, can you see this one is slightly darker brown to this one? You might say, well, this one's just more rubbed away. But there is a policy in ancient Kemet, which some of you might not be aware of. When they do bas reliefs or papyrus works, any of these flat works essentially where people are overlapping, one of the rules is that if two people are overlapping, they're never exactly the same color. They'll always do one slightly lighter or slightly darker than the other. And that contrast allows you to differentiate between the two people. It was actually a rule that they were very, very consistent with. So if you've looked at ancient Kemetic art, you've noticed it goes light, dark, light, dark. That is very deliberate. That's almost a rule of the way that they used to show their artworks. So yeah, please do. Yeah, I just want to kind of share that. Look at these images. Look at that. Absolutely striking. Really, really beautiful images. Just looking at this kind of African artwork, I mean, it's all inspiring. I really do. Like I said, just if there's nothing else you get, just having a look at the kind of like the bas relief work that you can see when you go to the Berlin Museum, it will knock you off your chair. Honestly, it's so good. I took it with flash there. I don't think it made much difference there. What is that he's holding? That's quite big. I wonder if I've got an image of the plaque explaining what he's holding there. So that was little snips of this entire kind of like relief, which was one piece. I kind of just showed you kind of like separate clips of it there, close-ups. So let's see. It says the human-shaped anthropomorphic coffins. Oh no, that's the coffin. So I don't think I have a plaque for that relief that I just showed you. So let's have a look. We're back on the coffins again. So these ones, I mean, I can tell instantly from looking at this one, you're looking at kind of a late period. This won't be a Kemetic dynasty from what I know, but I could be proven wrong. But let's have a look. So that one is, so it's the outer. Is that in a coffin? So 27th dynasty. What did I say that was to you? I just said that, didn't I? So 27th dynasty is. So I'm just pulling it up again. 27th dynasty is Persian. Yeah, thought so. So you could just kind of see from the style of this that it wasn't Kemetic. So this is a Persian coffin, but obviously they did, ancient Kemet being a high society, people, even invading classes, would essentially take on the customs, but then they'd put their own spin on it. So this is obviously a Persian spin on a ancient Kemetic custom. Now, it's quite interesting because obviously you're kind of like layperson walking in is not going to be able to distinguish between the non-Kemetic and the Kemetic dynasties, and this is a part of some of the obfuscation that takes place, where should it be displayed in a different way? Should it be displayed separate? Should more effort be made to differentiate between what is actually ancient Kemetic and what is, what was created under a foreign dynasty or an invading dynasty? I don't know. I think so. Here are a couple more here. See, this one looks more Kemetic, but I would say more late period. So this one kind of gives me like Ptolemaic vibes, as does this one. But I could be, no, this one, yeah. I mean, this one could be kind of like Saite period as well. I'm not sure. So, moving on to the statues now. This one really caught my eye. It's wonderful. You can see obviously the African custom of carrying on your head, but this one has been touched once again. If you look at the arm, and you can see the areas of dark pigment, even on the forehead and on certain areas. I feel like this one has been, once again, deliberately cleaned and retouched to look this way, because that when I was face to face this one, it just looked too clean. It just looked too clean to be several thousands of years old. It gave me that kind of fresh lick of paint Nefertiti vibe, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. And if you look at the like, for instance, the feet, the kind of, this didn't, you normally get some kind of damage on the feet traveling up, just through weathering. Look at the block it sits on for comparison. That would probably be the best comparison. This block the color hasn't survived. Look at the black that used to be here. It hasn't survived on this block at all. Okay, it's chipping everywhere, But then as soon as it gets to the statue, you kind of get this very solid sandy color all the way through. To me, that's kind of straight away, that's a little bit of alarm bells that I'm going to get. And I'm going to be like, yeah, this is being touched up. So, and for comparison, just so you know, I'm not kind of just waffling. For comparison, if you look at the brown, these people on the boats, these brown men on the boats who have preserved their pigment very well. But if you have a look, none of them have that kind of uniform single color going through. it's broken up, it's chipped, it's, whoops, let me go back. It's far from perfect. Okay, look at the color of the skirt. So look at the whiteness of her skirt over here in comparison to the color of the loincloths. Look how dim and dingy these loincloths have become. Now, why would these ones be all dim and dingy and that one be all white? Well, once again, I want you to cast your mind back to when I spoke to you guys about contrast. Okay? This is one of the tricks they use for contrast. If you make these guys loincloths bright white, i.e. you clean them up, all that's going to do is increase the contrast between their skin and their loincloth, and it's just going to make them look really, really black. So they make sure, well, we want these guys to look black, so we're going to keep their loincloths dirty, and we're not going to make any attempt to kind of like retouch. We don't want any kind of, contrast enhancements to make them look darker than they should. But then when they've found this one, they've retouched it, they've made that white, and then they've retouched this down to a sandy color. It all looks fresh, and then they make sure they get that black eyeliner going to make it look like this was definitely the deliberate color that they were after, because look how fresh this eyeliner is. But then even when you look at the features, just something just doesn't look right. So it doesn't even look like it's been repainted correctly. It just gives you, you just get those kind of like vibes where it's like, yeah, you've touched this up. You've definitely touched this up. So really, really wonderful images on these boat models. I managed to get some really lovely close-ups there. Have a look at that. I mean, how are you going to deny the Africanity of the men on these boats? It's beyond me. They've got afros and they're sitting on the boat. Like, come on. Absolutely wonderful image there. So these are from the, so that's middle coffin of Mentuhotep. Which one was the coffin of Mentuhotep, 12th dynasty? Which one was that? Or maybe it's coming next. Oh, yes, it is. So these are Ushabtis. Sorry, one moment. I'm trying to see what this plaque was for. I wonder if it is. So maybe this is the order of the. Look for the word Shabti anywhere. Yeah, so this is the rowing boat. Maybe I didn't get a picture of the coffin. I feel like there's a picture of a coffin back there that I didn't get. But if you have a look here of the boat. Yeah, here we go. Burial good. Model of a rowing boat with crew. So that's from the 12th dynasty. And then the female with the offering bearer, I think that's the female with the box on her head. That's also from the 12th dynasty. So they're from the same period. So there shouldn't be that much difference in terms of the way their painting is preserved. But obviously you see there is. So this is a bunch of Ushabtis. There's 4 Ushabtis here. Once again, I feel like they kind of like, is there a mix going on here? Or maybe not. These look like they could be from the same period. Let's have a look. But look at these wonderful images of these Ushabtis. You can get quite close there. On that note, actually, this headdress is something that I haven't been able to replicate. I know what it is because we talk about hair quite a lot on this channel, and I know what this headdress represents. I feel like it's a covering for long twists and all kind of like maybe long locks. Okay, as a result of the grown out twists. It's something that was used quite heavily for scribes, and essentially looks like a single piece of cloth, almost like that would kind of like pass from the center. That being said, I haven't been able to create a good depiction of this yet, and I really want to, because I think it's really important, because this actually is one of the most common depictions of the Kemetic. So you can see this isn't hair. There's no effort to say that this is grown from the scalp. So this isn't what you're seeing here. In my view, this is not a depiction of locks because of the way it starts. If I was saying this is a depiction of locks, I'd be looking for a parting at the base which you do see sometimes, in which case it is a depiction of locks. But in this case, this is some kind of a hair covering. And this is interesting because I haven't been able to recreate it just yet. Okay. I haven't been able to recreate it just yet, but I will do. I'd love to see an example of this hair cloth, because I feel like it would just be really simple. It would just be like a towel, like a single towel that they used to kind of like wrap the hair in. But yeah, I haven't. That's a mission for me. This one piece, because obviously those of you who watched my documentary on crowns, we've kind of sussed all of the hairstyles and actually came it out. You know, from the crop, which is the shape up, to the kind of like small afro, to the the tiled style, to the short twist, to the long twist, to the tripartite, to the plaited bouffant, or whatever they call it, which is just basically braided locks. Locks is in giant braids. We've covered them all. We know what they are. But this one I don't feel like I have covered, and I do feel like it would be good to cover it because it comes up so much. But anyway, let me move on. So this is just the plaques, so you can see what Ushabtis these were. So the first one was from the 20th dynasty. Okay, so that will be that's Ramesside dynasty, isn't it? Then we've got 1450 to 600, which is quite a vague time span there. So that's anything from New Kingdom, isn't it? New Kingdom to late period. Then we have 22nd and 23rd dynasties here, which are they Persian dynasties, 22nd, 23rd? Let me have a look. '22nd is a Libyan dynasty, and 23rd is Tanite. So 23rd is Kemetic, and 22nd is Libyan. And then we have 19th dynasty, which is Ramesside as well. Okay, let's move on. So this is cult chamber of Amenhotep and his wife Renutet. Did I skip forward too much there? Okay, no, just one here. So I'm going to zoom in and see what's happening here. So yeah, so this is just a chamber, and it's a real shame to see how much this has been damaged. But you can see this is a really nice bas relief there. Now this is where I started to see some use of kind of like plaster to repair, and once again, I'm just not a big fan of reparation works that kind of like that they do in some of these tombs. It's kind of like, if it's damaged, and let it be damaged. Don't fix it and change it into your image. But this was just an interesting tomb. I don't think I got much more than this. There was a big rope actually separating me, so I couldn't actually get inside and get really close with this. So there wasn't that much to photograph here. Trying to remember if there was anything interesting there. So we've got Osiris. And Horus. And who's the Ibis deity again? I can't remember. And Anubis. So that's quite interesting there. Let's move on. So, like I said to you earlier as well, here's a depiction of the wife, Renenu Net, I think her name was. And you can see she's depicted in exactly the same reddish brown, dark reddish brown hue as, I think actually a little bit darker than her husband is being depicted. So this whole idea of yellow skinned women, once again, is very much not consistent. So things have to be put into perspective about how often that tone is actually used. It's actually much more common to see the Kemetic woman in the same color as the men. Her hair is in the tripartite style here, so you can see these are the very, very thin locks, which have this kind of. I mean, you know what's really interesting actually? I wonder if I've got an image of this, because it would be nice to share that. Bear with me. Actually, I know I've got it on my keep, and I would like to share it. All right, bear with me, because we have been talking for a bit now. So let's take this as a quick little break where you guys can ask some questions or whatever, because I want to pull up an image, a little comparison image, because this is quite interesting actually. As soon as I find it, I'll pop it on the screen. Bear with me, it won't take me long. My keep syncs now, which is nice. It didn't sync for a long time. I don't know if I mentioned as well, it's probably worth mentioning here, the exact style that ancient Kemetic people, largely the women, but actually all people used to use, has actually got a name, modern style. I was really glad to find this out the other day, because I was at the post office, my local post office, just kind of like taking a package there, and I met this woman. I think she was, I can't remember where she was from. I think she was Antiguan, I can't remember, but she had her hair and she looked exactly like one of the Kemetic queens. She had it in that kind of like she had thin locks, and she had it in two giant braids, and her hair was just thick, and she looked like one of those statuettes of Queen T, with just the hair was just thick, and it was all her hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, you look exactly. And I had it kind of like in mind. I was like, you look like one of these kind of like Kemetic queens. And I said, what's the name of the style? What is the name of the style? And she said they're called sister locks, and I didn't know that. So a lot of you sisters will know that already. I didn't know that, but they're called sister locks. So I'm trying to find an exact image for the one that I wanted to show you, but I just want to give you an example of what sister locks are, because I am fully of the belief that this is definitely the most common style that you see in ancient Kemet. So I'm just going to quickly open this image in a new tab and just drag this over quickly so that everyone can see it. So these are sister locks. I know most of you will know this already, so I'm hoping I'm not teaching anyone to suck eggs, but these are sister locks. And I believe this is the most common style that you see in ancient Kemet. Easily. This is what a lot of them used to rock. And this is what will grow naturally from that tiled style, those little thin short twists. This is what the natural progression of that hairstyle is. But it's just, I think most of the women will know that the amount of maintenance it takes to keep a hairstyle like this just goes to show how much hair care was a thing in ancient Kemet. It really was a big deal. So yeah, that's quite interesting. All right, I'm going to skip forward. I can't find that hairstyle right now, and it's getting late, so I'm going to keep moving because I've got a lot to show you guys today. So a few canopic jars there. I'm just going to skip forward. This one caught my eye just because once again, Spidey sense was tingling. I just felt like this damage looked a bit deliberate, like they were trying to hide something. I can't really corroborate that with any evidence, but it just looked really kind of like, I don't know. I'm just looking at this kind of like, this is like an inner coffin, very African looking. I'm not going to make any presumptions on that, but then this tar is just kind of like, looks like it's been spilt or deliberately poured over the top. I don't know. I just, once again, Spidey senses were tingling when I saw that. I was like, oh, that looks deliberate. I wonder what was beneath that for them to have to feel the need to do that, you know. Yeah, so some little miniature statuettes there. This is, obviously you can look at this immediately and know this is very, very late period. I'd imagine this is probably something along the lines of Roman period. By the looks of it, it doesn't no longer looks Kemetic. This is definitely outside influence. Even just the way the hair and everything has been covered. This is definitely more Eastern customs coming in here. Certainly not Kemetic in the way it's been shown. So let's have a look. Do we have a date for that? Family burial, mummy portrait of Lady Aline. 1 to 2. I don't know, maybe 1st to 2nd century. Maybe it's saying. So that would put it in line with the Roman period. I'm not sure. That's what I'm assuming anyway. And then Fame portraits, which they didn't have many of. They actually had, surprisingly, they got more of the Fame mummies in the British Museum than they had in this museum. But here's an interesting thing about the Fame portraits. I actually of the impression that the Fame portraits is another hoax. Okay, I think it's a hoax. I think it's a Eurocentric hoax. Now, where did I get this from? Why do I say this? The reason why is, and I'm doing a documentary. Well, not a documentary. I'm probably going to end up doing a short or a short kind of long, which is kind of like maybe a 2 to 3 minute video or something. A researcher, Caroline Wilkinson, who does a lot of kind of like anthropomorphic and reconstruction work, she did a reconstruction, or at least a kind of a craniofacial analysis of one of the Fayum mummies. And when she basically recreated it, it was essentially a very, very, very African person. Even she couldn't deny it. Like, the nose was incredibly wide. You know, there was lots of really strong prognathism. It had kind of like all of the traits that it kind of, you know, I talk about this in the phenotypic matrix, you know, that kind of, it fell into the true Negroid area where it was so African that even they have to admit that this is definitely a black person. But then the Fayum portrait was very much a modern Egyptian person, but it was a modern Egyptian person with no prognathism, a very narrow nose. It was complete mismatch. So have a look at these. I mean, this is what the Fayum portraits are. They're coffins with allegedly a portrait of the person stuck on top, and then the person's inside, you know. So it's like, it has to be, you know, how could that happen? Well, this is where my spidey sense starts tingling again, because first of all, why do all the Fayum portraits clearly have the same artist? That's just straight away be a red. What did everyone just die on the same day? You know, why? What's going on here? Why do they all clearly have the same artist? And secondly, why have you got this situation where the mummy inside is not matching the person that's on the lid? It's absolutely a different person. That can only be two things that's made that occur. They've either replaced the mummy inside the Fayum portraits inside, which is very difficult to do because they were bandaged from head to toe, or B, they've found a bunch of these coffins and thought, oh, how can we give the modern Egyptian look more authenticity? I know, let's slap some of these portraits which maybe they found in some, you know, some jar or in some kind of like area next door or something like that, and they said, these are cool, let's wrap these around these coffins and make it look as though, you know, they come as a bundle. And that's kind of what my thought is. I think the Fayum portraits are fair, because I think that if it's proven, which it has been, and I'll expose it, that this person inside doesn't match this coffin, but this coffin is very much wrapped up, then that blows out the entire suggestion that the Fayum portraits can be real, in my view. But I'm very simplistic like that. There you go. So these are just some little miniature kind of like pieces of jewelry and artifacts, and I kind of photographed this because I thought these look like, you know, stuff that you'd buy today, which is just quite interesting to see. Let's skip ahead. All right, I'm going to skip ahead now because I do want to get to some of the more kind of famous pieces. There was one thing actually I wanted to show you whilst I'm on this, and this is something that I'm actually quite embarrassed to admit, but I wonder if I'm the only person that missed this. So obviously we've got these kind of like these little kind of like Neteru kind of like figurines where we've got, you know, Osirian figurines, Osiris, Horus, and I'm gonna skip ahead to the one we've got Hathor. But this here, so this is when it dawned on me. Okay, this is when it dawned on me. There's something dawned on me when I saw this, and I was like, "You absolute plank! How did you not figure this out?" So this is a depiction of Amun Ra, okay, or Amen Ra, who obviously was the favored Neteru of the Theban dynasty of the Amarna period, obviously apart from Akhenaten, who followed Aten. Now, notice his headpiece, okay, is exactly the same as the short one that King Tutankhamun wears, okay, and I never drew that link before. Okay, that on the mannequin, the King Tut on the wooden mannequin of King Tut, he has that headpiece, which I always thought, oh, what is that? It's the crown of he's King Tutankhamun. He's a follower of Amen, so obviously his depictions were in line with Amen Ra, which I felt like, duh. I don't know how I kind of missed that, because I have always known this is kind of like the Amen Ra look, but then I don't know what it was, just walking into that museum literally on that day and seeing Amen Ra like that, and I was like, yeah, of course. How did I miss that? That's really obvious. So yeah, this is why King Tutankhamun, you see him wearing that, and the mannequin, the mannequin where he has that yellow crown that is this shape. It's because he's obviously they like to depict themselves in line with the Neteru, whose, you know, principles they're kind of like their spat follows. So obviously the Theban dynasty, or the Theban dynasties followed the principles of Amen Ra. The Kushi, I don't know why your comment is highlighted, but it's caught my attention. I don't know how you did that. It says, I think there's a real question about the true genetic makeup of Greeks/Macedonians. Greeks were not classified as white until recently, I think, until the 20th century. I think so. I don't know if I've shared this before, but my thoughts are actually modern Egyptians. And when I say modern Egyptians, I'm not even talking about the really fair ones in Cairo. I'm talking about the more kind of like your more central Egyptian, your very kind of like middle brown Egyptian, you know, you're kind of like Saidi kind of people. I think that they are the closest to what the ancient Greeks look like. And I actually think the Romans were blacker than the ancient Greeks. So I actually think Rome is a much darker civilization than ancient Greece. But that's a whole another discussion. And I know Rome was mixed, but I actually think it wasn't as mixed as people think it was. I think actually Rome was a very dark civilization. But I think Greeks were kind of like your modern, kind of like phenotype wise, you're looking at kind of like central Egypt, modern Central Egypt for your kind of Greek/Macedonian. Well, actually for your Macedonian phenotype, and the Greeks are actually a slightly different ethnicity, but that's all conjecture. I don't have enough evidence for me to even suggest that that's correct, but it's just kind of my hunch. So anyway, that was Amen Ra, and I'm gonna just skip ahead a few. I mean, this is once again just talking about the kind of obfuscation that you need to be careful of when you're in these museums. So if you have a look at this piece here, which they've just kind of just chucked in the mix of ancient Kemet and these pieces, and you're like, what are you doing? What are these? These are clearly not Kemetic artwork. What is this? Where have you got it from, and what is it doing in ancient Kemet? Okay, and then you read the plaque, and it says burials in Middle Egypt. So it says burials from the Roman period, okay, in Middle Egypt show great regional differences. They all reflect in their varying form the statues and prosperity of the deceased, combined with the full supply in the afterlife. Male masks from the mere depict deceased, often blah blah blah. So basically, look, the long and short of this being these are from the Roman period, okay, well outside of any ancient Kemetic dynasty, okay, and these literally could just be anyone. So I mean, it's fine. At the end of the day, it's a museum, and they're these are legitimate museum pieces. But I would just love to see a little bit more care and clear labeling and separation, so that people aren't deceived when they come and they see these things, which I think is done quite deliberately. It was really nice to see some of these kind of like animals as well. So I think this one and the next kind of table, I wonder if I got the different animals, because I got some really strong African art vibes when I saw how much the ancient Kemetic people like to create little statues and figurines of animals. It did remind me very much of authentic African artwork. I'm gonna skip ahead. Who's that holding that mace? Did I capture that name? I didn't. It's a shame. So let's skip ahead. What's going on in this one? I'm just skipping ahead until there's see something notable. Okay, so this is the animals that I was talking about earlier. So remember I was speaking about earlier the fact that the ancient Kemetic artwork really does reflect what you see in kind of like later African societies. So you can see obviously all of the fauna represented here is African fauna. You've got your African, I think that's a Basenga dog being represented there. You have leopards, you have hippos, you have baboons. These are just all African fauna, and that is the focus point of Kemetic artwork. So it's really it's quite nice to see. That you don't see much, even falcons. Yeah, you don't see very little of animals that weren't basically essentially domestically African animals. So these are quite nice to see. We'll skip ahead there. Some more bas reliefs here. And this is tomb relief of men harvesting in the presence of Hetepet left. So Hetepet is this person here. It's like a woman, I think. Look at this amazing bas relief. Look at the DL here. So this is the 5th dynasty. Tomb relief feeding the cranes. Is that what they're doing? I don't know. I don't look like he's feeding the crane to me. Looks like that crane's about to become lunch. I don't know. There you go. I mean, look at this work. Look at this guy's hair. Look at this woman's plaits. So this one's even been depicted. They've even depicted the plait. So look at that. They've been able to differentiate between a short twisted style, which you can see on this guy here. This woman who obviously was this couple obviously were a pair of pharaohs because they both had their noses knocked off. Yes, I'm being coy. We know they're not. And look at the woman's hair. They've actually depicted the plait. They depicted the plait in this case. These are really thick and broad plaits that she has. Once again, this just knocks me off my chair when I see them able to present that kind of detail. It really is something quite striking. It's amazing to behold, honestly. I took a picture of the full Medinetta because I know there'll be a time when I want to read that and see what's going on in this story. But look at these African faces. Look at this. Even with the features healthily chiseled off, it's very difficult to hide what you're seeing there. It's a wonderful African couple there. Okay. Another pharaoh with his nose chiseled off. Yeah. Once again being ironic. There's that headpiece again that I'm talking about though. I will figure this out one day. But I'll figure it out comprehensively. Another one of these boats. You can see very consistent. And remember what I spoke to you about before. I don't know if any of you have seen my live stream about where the ancient Egyptians read. And in that live stream, I talk about the fact that wood tends to sustain colour much better than stone reliefs do. So stone reliefs is the hardest to preserve colour. But wood preserves colour quite well. So although this isn't the exact target colour, this is much closer to it than you'll see on most, if not any, stone reliefs there are, or stone statuettes. Oh, look at these boats. Not a single non-African in sight. This is just a scene of African men, Why won't it let me administrate? That's really annoying. Don't have any admins in today, which is a bit annoying. Let's move on. Another fantastic boat with Kemetic men. Once again, this is realistic in terms of the amount of damage that you'd probably see in that time. No effort to do restoration work here, which is absolutely fine, because your eye is able to aggregate what the target color should be in these cases. Not everything needs to be restored. Okay, you can see it's faded all along, so you know that the target color would have been that deep, rich brown that you've been seeing quite consistently. And the plaque simply says, no. Yeah, Lady Hetepet taking a cruise across the Lotus Lake. And that's a 6th dynasty piece. So, we're talking about something that's 4,000 plus years old. Have a look. She actually gives me slight kind of like Queen Kawit vibes here. She's got that short hair, this queen. You see that a lot in the I think it was Mentuhotep, the wives of Mentuhotep. So Queen Kawit, Queen Ashayet, they've got that kind of very short hair, and she's got a kind of a headpiece on top of it, holding a lotus flower. This is just a very, very African scene. Really nice. Really nice, this one. I don't know if you guys can make this one out as well. Really lovely bas relief there. Let me have a look at this and this one here as well. Your gut instinct says, oh, this is locks, but actually this is that headpiece again, it looks like, because as you can see, it kind of comes from the front. So this is another depiction of that kind of like that headpiece, the headpiece covering that they use, that I'm still trying to figure out what it is, or at least exactly how it functions. But nonetheless, this is obviously a very, very African looking person. You can see those features a mile away. I love the fact that I was able to get this close. I mean, look at the detail. I'm able to zoom in there. So nice to be able to have these really close up images. And I will, when the website gets done, all of my images I'm going to make available, and hopefully be a part of us flooding the net so that people are able to see all of these images that aren't always shared of ancient Kemet. You know, they don't get them all. You know, the iconoclasts don't get them all. Have a look at these African features. Really nice to see. So this is a very, very faded or damaged wall. You can see here the men with their hands in the air. I wonder what that depicts. So this is a fragment of the north wall of the burial chamber of Persen depicting dancers. Okay, and this is Old Kingdom. This is 2680 to 2190 AD. So we're talking, yeah, very much Old Kingdom there. Another set of African men in one of these scenes. I really love these scenes because there's so much going on in them, and there's always some kind of cultural continuity that's being depicted. So I wonder if we have an explanation of what that is. Model of a granary. That's what that is. The 12th dynasty. So that's men inside a granary. So look at that. How's that for detail? Lovely. Really nice scene there. Okay. This is another one. This is a really famous. I've seen this image several times. So it was really nice to be able to capture this. I caught it from a few angles. So you have some men and some women carrying. I mean, this is obviously just a very African thing to do. And you see this right across Africa. Carrying goods on the head. And I've seen this many, many times. I think there's an image that kind of floats around the net where this is on a black backdrop, but I made sure I captured this from a couple of different angles, which was nice to do. And what does the plaque say? Model of a group of female and male offering bearers, which sounds about right. So you can see the depiction of the men there, and I just want to get that other angle. You got these men pounding millet, it looks like over here. My man's down there making some pounded yam. And then this is the other angle that I got these villagers in. And actually, I was really happy that I got this angle as well, because in the photos I've seen, they've tried to make the women look really yellow. But hopefully you can see here that these women are essentially the same brown colour as the men, but they just have a slightly yellowy undertone. And for some reason, it's been kind of like, in the photos I've seen at least, the yellow part is overemphasized. But just look at the features. You're looking at a group of Africans there without any shadow of a doubt. Look at those faces. Do I need to say any more if you look at those faces? So we can zoom in here and we see the very strong Africanity of these people. Really nice to capture that from all angles. And then from the side as well. Okay. There's a few pieces here. Have a look at this one. Lovely, amazing piece there. Let me zoom right in so you can see the detail on that. Look at that. Wonderful pieces. Some of these pieces I really haven't seen before. So it was just nice to see some very much new scenes and very much new pieces that, yeah, like I said, I hadn't seen before. This one over here, just like, wow. And what I loved about this one as well is, once again, the hair. This hairstyle is the exact hairstyle that the wife of King Tutankhamun is wearing on the golden throne. So you can Google that in your own time, the golden throne. She has this kind of layered hairstyle, while at the top, it's like this top layer of twist, and underneath they use much shorter twists. So it's like on the very, very top layer, you have long twists that kind of like come down almost into a bob. And then you have kind of these short angled twists every layer beneath. It's an amazing hairstyle. I'd love to see it reproduced in modern day, because it seemed like it was a very popular hairstyle. I mean, there's no doubt about it, the ancient Kemetic people love their hair. They absolutely love their hair. That's for sure. This hairstyle again that I've been desperate to show you. Let me just quickly rotate this. I've been really desperate to show you this because I actually have a really good modern equivalent of this hairstyle that I've been really kind of like, yeah, desperate to show you. I wish I could find it. I thought I had it here. Oh, it says a 4. So I wonder if I go back. 104, 103. Oh no, that's the way the image is saved. If I could just find that hairstyle, because it's gonna bug me that I haven't shown that to you guys. Bear with me. Let me just quickly have a look, see if it's in this other folder that I'm looking at the moment. No, that means it's just sitting on my phone somewhere and I have to show it another time. That's really annoying. Very annoying. Alright, I'm gonna move on. Just want to show some of the games as well, the Kemetic games, because I know a lot of them are played still in Africa, and in some of the kind of furniture as well, which has a very, very, this is stools. This is an African tradition as well. So I know people are going to say, oh, everyone has stools, but no, stools are used ceremoniously in Africa and always have been done. So it's similar with the headrests. You have the headrests and the stools, which are ceremonial in Africa. They're signs, they're family heirlooms, and they're often signs of authority within families, particularly ruling families. So this is quite significant, the stool. For African combs, which I'm sure everyone's going to be familiar with, the fact that the combs are shaped as kind of afro hair combs in terms of how wide the teeth are. And I'm going to skip ahead here. Not much to say about that. Bear with me, I'm just going to skip ahead through some of these images. Here's another relief that I wanted to show you, once again, just to show you the consistency of colour. Once again, okay, women back here not being depicted in yellow. Are they depicted lighter than the men? Yes. The reason probably being that his wife might have been slightly lighter than he was, which is incredibly common. But just the same way your wife could be lighter, your wife could also be darker, like we see in the case of Amos and Nefertari. It's just African phenotypic difference. But what you're not seeing is all women yellow and all men red. You can see once again this is a very consistent kind of tonality that is being expressed between them. You see the side plait being used there. Okay, and these kind of like wax perfume hats they put on. The Usek neck piece, which is still worn today in modern Nguni, particularly Zulu peoples, and amongst certain tribes in Ethiopia as well. The Usek neck pieces are still worn. Okay, the leopard skin, okay, which they say is a Kushite tradition, but once again you have a Kemetic person wearing a leopard skin, similar to King Tut, who was buried with a leopard skin. So it's always good to see here. These people down here, are these Kemetic people or are they Kushites? I can't read the Medu Neter, but it would be interested to know. Okay, but you can see that shared customs and shared cultures between the two civilizations is certainly quite strong. So just to say what that plaque was, Naos dedicated to the goddess Isis, once with winged doors, large parts of... Okay, I don't think that's what we just saw. This is Ptolemaic, so this is what we're probably about to look at now. No, it's not that. Okay, I don't know what that is, because that definitely wasn't Ptolemaic, that piece. So that's what I think. I just took a quick zoom on these women so you could see how very African they look. Just looking at them definitely gives me kind of like Nubio Ethiopic vibes, looking at these women exactly as they're sitting there. So that's why I would probably lean or venture towards the fact that these are New Kingdom. But let's have a look actually. So all the tombs of Kebet El Hawa North have been looted and partly destroyed between 2011 and 2013. That's that recent. That's disgusting. These people do not deserve these pieces. I'm trying to get a date on them. Okay, they haven't given a date for those pieces, which is a shame. Here we go. So Usa lived during the reign of Amenhotep III. See, I knew that was New Kingdom. There you go. Amenhotep III, and as far as the stylistic features allow a further specification, the second half of the reign seems possible. So yeah, there you go. So that was that would have been around the time of Amenhotep and Queen T. New Kingdom. Okay. You know what? It is now 12 o'clock and I will not lie to you, I am feeling really tired. So I think we'll have to do a part 2 to this. And I know I promise part 2s and I don't do them sometimes, but I think I will. And what I'll do is I'll schedule it now so I don't back out. I think what we'll do is we'll do a part 2 to this because there are other pieces that I really, really need to show you guys. So I've really enjoyed this live stream and having you guys all online. It's been absolutely amazing, but we are not there yet. We haven't even really got to the good part, but I think in one more live stream we should be able to cover everything else that I want to cover on this live stream. I hope you've seen stuff that was relatively informative there, or some new pieces that you maybe haven't seen before. I would have liked to have shown you a little bit more, but thank you very much everybody for tuning in. I will reschedule this second part to this perhaps on Thursday. I do feel like really putting myself to work this week. So I think what I'll do is tomorrow's live stream, we'll keep that there. That's the live stream, the AMA with the dictionary. So we'll do the dictionary AMA tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we'll do part 2 to this live stream. And then on Friday, we're going to have a live stream with the lovely Nubia Nada, and we're going to go through the 1925 video, have a kind of a live reaction to that. So we've got quite a packed week. I'll probably take a week off after this, but yeah, please do join me. I've really, really enjoyed everyone's company. Hit up the likes. I appreciate everyone for joining. I'm just gonna quickly have a quick stroll through the comments, and then I'm gonna wrap this live up. So let's have a look. I don't think there was much. I mean, people were obviously talking a lot of sense, but I didn't feel the need to jump in with anything that anyone was saying. So I think most of it was, well, it's been very active, which is always nice to see, to be totally honest with you. Always really, really nice to see. Thank you, everyone. Can I just give another additional thank you to the very, very generous donators? I've lost my top one. I'll have to play it back. Someone donated me $20. You've disappeared because the live stream chat has been so active, but I just want to give a big thank you to you again. Thank you, that ninja. Thank you, Quadro, and thank you, Jojoya. Thank you, everybody who has joined them and who's been partaking and participating in the discussion, which is absolutely fantastic. It looks like, yeah, it looks like people had a relatively good time, which is nice. It's always good to do these kind of unstructured live streams every now and then. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I've really enjoyed everyone's company today. Had a good time walking through, and I appreciate, thank you very much, Kushi, for saying that you appreciate me, and I appreciate everybody for joining. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye bye.